Okay, let us now proceed to the general provisions, section 4 of CAO 9-2019. 4.1, establishment of customs facilities and warehouses. Okay, so sinabi dito that when the business of the port and trade requires such facilities, the district collector, again, it is the district collector which is subject to the approval of the commissioner, shall designate and establish CFWs for the storage or clearance of imported goods for other special purposes. Okay, so it is the district collector which is subject to the approval of the commissioner who shall designate and establish a CFW for storage. Okay, and existing contracts of private operators with concerned government agencies and regulatory bodies. Okay, so these are the private operators, but it is still under the government supervision. Okay, so those are the PPA, SBMA, PIA, CPA, and their respective affiliates and subsidiaries. Okay, so those are also customs facilities and warehouses. Okay, and they were already granted the privileges and powers by virtue of such contracts, and it shall not be impaired or adversely affected in the exercise of the supervisory and regulatory functions of the Bureau in accordance with the CMTA. So itong sina PPA na ito, SBMA, PIA, and CPA, these are private operators, but they are still under the supervision of the government. Okay, so they are still under the supervision and control of the Bureau of Customs in accordance with the CMTA. Okay, section 4.2, supervision and control over customs facilities and warehouses. All CFWs, including their expansion, extensions, and additional warehouses or additional facilities, shall be considered as part of customs premises, and they are subject to the supervision and control of the Bureau, which shall impose such conditions and other regulations as may be deemed necessary for the protection of government revenue and for the goods that are stored therein. Okay? The Bureau, however, shall not be liable for any loss, damage of the goods stored in the customs facility warehouse without prejudice to applicable provisions of law on loss of or damage to property. So it says here that the Bureau has all the supervision and control over all the customs facilities and warehouses, and they are not liable for any loss or damage that is going to happen within the customs facility warehouse. Okay, so let us now proceed to the types of customs facilities and warehouses. Okay, so number 1, terminal facility. Okay, I hope that you are still listening, guys, because we have an activity afterwards. Okay, so customs facilities and warehouses. So number 1 is terminal facility. Okay, so when we talk about terminal facility, it is a facility duly authorized to operate ports and offer services such as but not limited to receiving, handling, and checking, as well as the custody and delivery of conventional break bulk or stripped or stuffed containerized cargo over piers and wharves in transit sheds or warehouses and open storages. So when we talk about terminal facilities, we are talking about the facilities that are inside the port. Okay, so they are the facilities that are authorized to operate inside the port and offer services. Okay, so ito yung mga tumutulong doon sa pagre-receive, pag-handle, pag-check ng mga dumadating na cargo. So when we talk about number 1, what kind of cargo are they checking? So number 1 are conventional break bulk. So when we talk about break bulk, these are the loose cargos. Okay? Okay? And they are stripped and stuffed containerized cargo. Okay? There are also containerized cargo that they are working on, but they are going to strip or they are going to stuff. So you already know what strip means and stuff means, right? Section B. Stripping and stuffing. Okay, very good.
Loading and unloading.
Loading and unloading, very good. So, what happens here is that there are containerized cargos, okay, but they are going to load and unload something from it. Unlike if it's a conventional or a containerized cargo which is for consumption. Okay, if a cargo is for consumption, you are not going to do the stripping and stuffing. Okay, please take note of that. If it's a regular cargo, it will not have something to do within the terminal facility aside from being stored therein. Okay, but if it's a break bulk or a loose cargo, then the containerized cargo will go on stripping and stuffing. Okay, and those are where the terminal facilities and the terminal facility operators and services happens. Okay, so those happens in piers, in transit sheds, and warehouses, and open storages areas. So that is what your terminal facility is all about. Okay, so that is where the stuffing, stripping, and then loading and unloading happens. Okay, and there are providers in there. There are operators inside the warehouse who do such services. Okay. Now next, off-dock CFW. Okay, it is a customs facility located outside the seaport, established for temporary storage of goods. It is considered part of customs premises under the exclusive control, direction, and management of the Bureau, and it may be a container yard, container freight station, seaport, temporary warehouse, airport temporary warehouse, or inland container depot as defined under this order. So when we talk about off-dock, these are also customs facility which are outside the Bureau of Customs or outside the port that is going to be used for temporary storage of goods. Okay? So later on, we're going to discuss further about that. And I'm going to show you, I actually had you watch a video about a container freight station wherein that is also an extension of the Bureau of Customs because we have a customs officer inside that particular CFS. Okay? And that is used for the temporary storage of loose cargos. Okay? So those are your off-dock CFW. Off-terminal CFW, it is a customs facility located outside the airport, established for temporary storage of goods. It is considered part of customs premises under the exclusive control, direction, and management of the Bureau. So off-terminal CFW, these are just for the airports. Okay? And off-dock, from the word itself, dock, outside of the port. Okay? Outside of the wharves. Okay? So that means these are for sea importations. So those are the off-dock CFWs. And if it's an air importation, it's called off-terminal. Did you get it? Did you get the difference, guys? Okay. So nalilinawan na ha. Off-dock is for those sea shipments, and off-terminal are those for air shipment. Okay? Next, container yard. It is a facility duly authorized to accept and store container vans, loaded or empty, intended for international shipping for storage within the period allowed under applicable customs laws, rules, and regulations. A container yard may be established either within the seaport or off-dock, okay, as may be allowed under customs laws, rules, and regulation. So, a container yard is a place within the port wherein the container vans that are loaded or empty are stored. Okay? So, kung makikita nyo doon sa Bureau of Customs or sa pier, kung nakita nyo na yung main location ng port and pier, you are going to see there a place wherein there is a lot of containers that are stored. Okay? So, that is what you call the container yard. Okay? Again, anyways, I'm going to show you videos about that. Okay? Later on. Again, container yards these are duly authorized facilities to accept and store container vans. And again, these are off-dock, okay, meaning that the shipment was done by the sea, okay? Kasi containers naman are just being imported and exported via the sea. It cannot be used sa mga planes or sa mga airports. Next, container freight station. So it is a facility duly authorized to accept and store containers loaded with consolidated shipments for temporary storage, examinations, stripping, stuffing, and other related activities as may be allowed under customs laws, rules, and regulation. A container freight station may be established either within the seaport or off-dock, as may be allowed under the customs laws, rules, and regulations. So, these container freight stations, this can be terminal facilities, or these are inside the seaport, or it can also be off-dock, meaning it's outside the port. Okay? So, container freight stations, these are facilities, or these are warehouses wherein they are the ones who are consolidating shipments. Okay? So, they are the place where the consolidated shipments are stored and accepted. Okay? Meaning, inside the container, there are a lot of different importers who imported different cargos. Okay? Okay, so CFW works as a place or a storage of a consolidated shipment wherein inside a container, there are a lot of shipments in there which has different owners. Okay? Unlike a containerized cargo, okay, a container for consumption wherein there is only one shipment which is covered by only one bill of lading. Okay? Sa mga container freight station, ito yung there is a shipment of a container, but within that particular container, there are different cargos under different bill of lading. Okay? Meaning there are different owners of that particular shipment. Are you getting it, guys? Nakukuha nyo yung container freight station? Section B? Okay. So, again, these container freight stations are being used as temporary storage. Okay? It can also be used as a place for examination. Siyempre, they will be also unloading and unloading. They're going to strip and stuff. And there are also other related activities that can be done inside the CFS with those consolidated shipments. Okay? So, for example, you imported lang, halimbawa, 5 boxes of rims or 5 boxes of tires. Okay? Siyempre, that 5 boxes will not fit the whole container. For example, 1 by 20 container. Ang laman lang is 5 boxes. So, that will be hassle for the importer if he's going to just import 5 and then he's going to put it in a 1 by 20 container. So, mali yun. So, what he's going to do is going to go to a consolidator wherein the consolidator will consolidate all shipments and then he's going to fill the container of all the shipments from different owners. Okay? So, that is what a container freight station is used for. Okay? So, by the way guys, these container freight stations are what am I going to show you. Okay? So, yung mga videos na ginagawa ko, and I also work with container freight stations. So, I'm going to show you the videos about that for you to have an idea on how everything is done with container freight stations. Okay? Because that is where I work. Okay? So, next, Seaport Temporary Storage Warehouse. So, Seaport Temporary Storage Warehouse, it is a customs facility established within the seaport premises or off-dock for purposes of storage, examination, stripping, stuffing, or safekeeping of imported goods. Okay? So, ito naman, just what I've said earlier, these are the warehouses that are inside the customs facilities. Okay? So, they are terminal facilities inside the Bureau of Customs or inside the port. Okay? Airport Temporary Storage Warehouse. So, these are customs facility within the airport premises. So, kanina, seaport premises. Ito naman, airport premises. Inland Container Depot or ICD, it is an off-dock CFW which is part of terminal facility equipped for handling or temporary storage of containers, both empty or laden, for transit as may be allowed by the Bureau of an Inland Customs Office. So this is Inland Container Depot. This is a place wherein you put the containers which are empty, okay, or it can also be laden, okay, which will be transferred to another customs office or to another port. So this is where those containers are being put into. Okay. So those are your types of terminal facilities and warehouses, guys. Do you have any other questions about that? Okay, let's continue with 4.4. Okay, designated areas for abandoned, overstaying, and forfeited goods within the CFW. So we have already discussed this already. So there should be a designated place where the Bureau shall establish a temporary storage of abandoned and overstaying and forfeited goods. Okay, so there should be a designated area for that. 4.5, other premises used for customs purposes. For the protection of government revenues, prevention of entry of contrabands and other customs fraud, CFW shall extend to examination areas, cold storage, wharves, infrastructures, and other premises where goods subject to customs clearance may be stored, examined, or disposed. Okay, customs control over these premises shall be without prejudice to the general powers of the LGU and Philippine Coast Guards and law enforcement agencies in the exercise of their respective functions. Okay? So, sinasabi dito that the CFW shall extend examination area to all the areas that are inside their premises. Okay? Or to all the areas wherein the Bureau of Customs has controlled of. But they should be cooperating with the LGUs and the Philippine Coast Guard as well for them to use all the other premises that are due to be examined. If they if they think that there is something wrong or if there is something illegal or if there are smuggling that is going to happen within the premises. Okay? So that is also one of the laws that are being discussed here in CAO 9-2019. So now 4.6, issuance of authority to operate. The Bureau shall be responsible for the issuance of an authority to operate CFW. Again, it is the Bureau of Customs who is issuing the authority to operate a CFW. Okay, they are also going to be the one to impose the different sets of requirements of their establishment, maintenance, and operation, setting forth the rights and obligations of operators, and the penalties and sanctions for the violation of these rules. Okay, so the operators of the terminal facilities with existing contracts granted by PPA and other ports authorities under Section 4.3 hereof shall be registered as a CFW provided that they submit their permit to operate or equivalent document from their respective port regulators and comply with the requirements under Section 6 for the effective exercise of customs jurisdictional control over ports, airports, and terminal facilities. So, for example, that the PPA, so these are just terminal facilities and they would like to have their warehouses to be used as CFW as well. So they need to have a permit to operate. Okay? So ito sina PPA na ito, SBMA, these are your economic zones wherein they are privately owned but they are being governed by the government. Okay? So they can also have their places or their warehouses be used as a CFW, but they should have a permit to operate or they should have authority to operate their respective ports, okay, to be used as a CFW nga. So they still need to apply for those permits and authorities and ask for the authority to operate. Okay, 4.7, non-transferability of authority to operate. So the authority to operate a CFW shall not be transferable. Okay, so if ever that you would like, for example, the owner of the terminal facility would like to transfer the permit to another warehouse facility, then that is not, that cannot happen because that is against the law. Okay? Because the authority to operate cannot be transferred. Okay? But if ever that you have a merger, sale, assignment, or other modes of transfer, the surviving entity, which is not the grantee of an authority to operate issued by the Bureau, must apply for a new authority following the prescribed procedure under the existing laws, rules, and regulations. Okay? So if ever that you are a certain terminal operator would like to have a merger with other company, and then they're going to use the name of that particular company, then that will be another issue. They need to have their own authority to operate, and they need to apply for their own authority to operate, because your authority to operate as a CFW is not transferable. Okay? 4.8, registration of CFWs. All CFWs granted with authority to operate shall be registered with the BOC's profile recording system as CFW operator. Okay? So, lahat daw ng nabigyan ng authority to operate, they should register under the BOC's profile recording system as CFW operator. What is the reason behind that? Okay? So, if you're going to lodge an entry, or if you're going to lodge a goods declaration, you are going to put in there where your commodity be located at. Okay? So, your entry will show where your commodity will be transferred into. Okay? So, for example, that you are going to import a loose cargo. Okay? So, when you file an import entry or you file a goods declaration for your loose cargo, you are going to declare in your goods declaration the place where your commodity will be transferred at, or what CFW your commodity will be transferred into. Okay? So, it will, syempre, since it's a loose cargo, it will not be stored inside the port. Okay? So, it's not a containerized cargo, it's a loose cargo. It will definitely go into a CFS or a container freight station. Okay? So, when you lodge an entry, you need to put the name of your CFS or to the place or to the warehouse where your commodity will be transferred into. Okay? That's why the CFWs who were given the authority to operate should register with the BOC profile recording system, because they should see your name there in the e-trade or in the CDEC, in the intercommerce, or into the system which the BOC use for the lodgement of entry. Okay? So that is the reason why those CFW should also have their CPRS. Okay? And they should also have the records with the E2M system of the Bureau of Customs, because again, when you lodge an entry, you should also be lodging in there or declaring in there where your commodity will be taken at. Okay, so please take note of that. 4.9, creation or dissolution of CFWs. The Secretary of Finance may, upon recommendation of the Commissioner, create or dissolve certain types of warehouses subject to consultation with the NEDA and the Department of Trade and Industry based on prevailing economic circumstances. Okay? So, it is the Secretary of Finance who has the power to create and dissolve a CFW, but it's upon the recommendation of the Commissioner of Customs. Okay? Lastly, 4.10, assignment of personnel. In pursuit of its supervisory and control functions over customs premises, the district collector may assign customs personnel at CFWs to monitor and implement control measures for customs purposes in accordance with the existing organizational structure and staffing pattern. Okay? So again, as I've told you earlier, these CFWs are extensions of customs premises. Okay? Meaning there should be a customs officer inside that particular warehouse or that particular CFW, because it's really outside, it's already outside the Bureau of Customs, or it's already outside the port. Okay? So that is the reason why there should be customs personnel, or the district collector should assign a customs personnel in that particular CFW, because that is a part of customs premises as well. Okay, so they are there to monitor and implement the control measure for customs purposes, and it should be in accordance with its existing organizational structure and staffing pattern. Okay, so that's it for today regarding your CFW.